Well, part of my brain says since the last two were fake, this must be fake too. But it's a part of me that says you want me to think it's fake, so that means it's really fact. Because I know how you think, Dan.
Welcome to Experience Points, presented by our friends at Avtex who transform customer experience through CX design and orchestration. On Experience Points, contestants earn points by answering customer experience questions and share their insights on how to make your interactions remarkable. Those points turn into dollars for the charity of their choosing. I'm Joey Coleman.
And I'm Dan Gingiss, and we'd love to introduce you to today's contestant.
She is a friend, a coach, a mentor, somebody who I have had the great pleasure of working with multiple times. She is Marquesa Petway, business reinvention expert, technology strategist. She's a speaker and business coach and the author of Your Reinvention Roadmap. Marquesa, I'm so excited you're here.
Yay, I'm so excited to be here, Dan and everyone. This is fun. Oh my gosh. Let's do this.
I love it. We are so excited to have you with us, Marquesa. You're going to be playing for a special organization today. Can you tell us a little bit about who you're playing for and why you've decided to play for them?
Oh, yes. Well, Black NSA and National Speakers Association is a professional organization for professional speakers. So when you get motivated, you're probably hearing from an NSAer. Anyway, National Speakers Association has what's known as community groups. And these groups stand for something. Well, Black NSA, we make it our mission to put more people of color, specifically African Americans, on more stages, and virtual or on demand or in person, because you know what? Everybody needs to be seen and heard. So if you attend a presentation and there's not enough, diversity in the room, give Black NSA a call. So that's who I'm playing for today.
That is awesome. And Marquesa, that's how we met. Is I attended a Black NSA event and you were on stage and I absolutely loved it and came up and introduced myself. Yep. And that's how we met. So it's a wonderful cause. So today we are going to be playing a game called Fake or Fact.
In Fake or Fact, examine 3 similar experiences. Some are real, some are not. Your task is to determine the fake from the fact. Each experience correctly detected is worth 100 points. 3 correct answers will earn you 200 bonus points for a possible score of 500 points.
You guys, you're taking me back to my TV days.
I like it.
All right. So, Marquesa, increasingly businesses are being asked to distribute their products internationally and in unfamiliar regions or markets. While some products may have raving fans within the USA, those same products may not have broad availability outside the USA. So we're going to present to you 3 items that we're saying are typically available outside of the US. So these are all brands that you're going to recognize in the US. The question is, can you get them outside of the US? And we're saying for all 3 of them, yes, you can. They are readily available. You're going to tell us fake or fact. You ready?
All right, let's do
all right,
this.
First, Girl Scout cookies. Now, we know how everybody loves their Girl Scout cookies. My Girl Scout, when she starts selling them, man, people go wild. The second...
I gained weight because of your Girl Scout. I love it.
The second is good old American cheese. And the third are Pringles. So we think that all 3 of these items are readily available outside of the United States. And we're going to ask you whether that is fake, i.e. not true, they're not available, or fact, yes, they are available outside of the United States. Let's start with the Girl Scout cookies. Marquesa, do you think that people outside of the United States can have and obtain and eat Girl Scout cookies?
I should know this. I was a cadet. I sold the most Girl Scout cookies than anybody else in my class. I was a champion. Oh my goodness. Girl Scout USA. I'm going to say fact.
Fact that they are available outside the U.S.
Yes.
Okay. And why do you
I
think?
am for the company. Why do I think this? Well, you sold them online, and I don't remember you saying that they were, but I don't remember a lot of things. I remember you saying that they were only available locally. And I'm thinking, why not? I mean, Girl Scouts, guys, I spoke in their facility. They can ship. They're huge. They're a big organization. They're huge. Why wouldn't they? I have friends in London. You know the deal. Canada. Why can't they enjoy Girl Scout cookies too? So if the answer is no, then that's not right.
Marquesa,
I'm getting upset.
you know what's great, Marquesa? I completely agree with everything you said. And the answer is you cannot get them outside the United States. The rest of the world, unfortunately, does not have this pleasure that we have here in the United States. It's unbelievable, but maybe with your input, they can figure this out.
I know. Wow.
All right, let's move on to good old American cheese. Is American cheese something that you can get outside of America?
Well, my first brain would say no, because it's an American cheese. But, I can't think of what the cheese is right now, but I know I eat international cheese right here in the States. So and hello, despite what's going on now, we're still the most famous country. So I don't understand why American cheese would not be sold outside the country. So I'm going to have to say that it is sold outside of the USA. So I'm trying to remember if that means bigger.
Fact.
So fact.
Okay. So Joey, let's answer the question. Is American cheese sold outside the United States? No. American cheese actually is a uniquely American flavor that pretty much the rest of the world does not like. And so that's why it's not available.
Marquesa, we export a lot of things from the United States around the world, but American cheese isn't one of them.
That's okay, Marquesa. Come on, we got one more. I think you can guess.
My favorite chips, second favorite. Lay's are the first. Okay.
All right, so we got Pringles, and we know there's lots of flavors here in the United States. The question is, can you get Pringles outside of the United States? And I don't know, let's say some local flavors.
Oh. Does this game come with a lifeline?
You want to phone a friend?
I got my phone here. Let me ask Google. Oh my gosh. Well, part of my brain says since the last two were fake, this must be fake too. But it's a part of me that says you want me to think it's fake, so that means it's really fact. Because I know how you think, Dan. So
okay, well, if you know how I think, Marquesa, then
I'm gonna go with it is available internationally, which means
fact.
Fact.
All right, Joey, is it available?
Hey! Yay! That reasoning actually works sometimes. That makes me feel good. I needed to win something.
I'm honored that you know me so well. So good job, Marquesa.
Fantastic. Well, Marquesa, here's the interesting thing. Obviously, you're a fan of a lot of those brands. Dan is too. So am I. But one of the big challenges that a lot of organizations have is the availability of their product wherever their customers are that want it. And could you speak a little bit to kind of your thoughts on the importance of being able to deliver that customer experience, even in regions or territories that you might not naturally operate in?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that especially for the professional speaking world, during the day. Well, if you're speaking in person, I think it's important to understand the customs, understand the expectation. Don't assume I'm a great speaker. I know my expertise. Yeah, that's good. But if the delivery mechanism isn't clear or connecting, you are so screwed. So I think it's important to understand where you're speaking. And if you're speaking, and I have spoken in other countries before, some I still haven't spoken in. And a lot of them, it's cool, but there are some I understand that you got to do a little bit of research. Otherwise, you're going to lose your potential customer.
You know, Marquesa, this reminds me of a particularly embarrassing moment that I had. I had a job for 3 years that I traveled extensively internationally, and I messed up one of the key customs once. Where in Europe, a typical greeting is you kiss somebody on both cheeks. In Latin America, a typical greeting is you kiss someone on one cheek, and so I went to kiss somebody in Latin America on the other cheek, and she was like, "Whoa!"
What are you doing?
and I was really, really embarrassing. But you know what I think is kind of interesting about this. You mentioned diversity before when you were talking about Black NSA, and I find that one of the things that happens often with people and companies in America is that we don't consider the diversity of culture outside of our country. And we don't think about the fact that people in other countries may have different opinions, may have different values, may eat different foods, may have different ways of greeting, etc. And, you know, there's the old joke that I know all of us that have traveled internationally have heard that says, you know, what do you call someone who speaks 2 languages bilingual? What do you call someone who speaks multiple languages multilingual? And what do you call somebody who speaks 1 language American? We of course expect everyone to speak our language. So I'm interested in terms of you know, in your travels or just in your work, you know, where does it come up where you sort of have to take a step back and just understand who your market is, who your audience is, in order to possibly pivot one way or another?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm a big technology speaker, and or rather, I speak about how to leverage technology in your business. And during COVID times, that was really critical to a lot of people had to figure out, oh my gosh, how do I do this not in person? So I love that kind of thing. I actually get bored, Dan, doing the same thing the same way. So I welcome the opportunity to do it differently. You know what I mean? Try it this way. Let me see this person's perspective. And it doesn't mean I'm not a control freak and like things my way at times. So in my business, I think that's a big strength of mine, is when my customer says to me, hey, can we do this differently? You know, but I will say this, if I feel like them doing it differently will hurt the quality of their goal or them getting to their goal, then I'll push back. But ultimately, I am so open to changing or doing whatever needs to be done to make that customer happy. But when it comes to understanding the way that they think, learn, communicate, that I'm all into that. That's everything. I think that's customer service one-on-one, just saying from my perspective.
Yeah, you know, I think you're so right. I mean, at the end of the day, if we're going to offer our products or services in a different area, whether that's a different area of the country we're in or a different country on the planet, we need to understand what we're getting into. And I think you bring up a valuable point, which I imagine might be part of the reasoning why some of the brands we featured earlier in the quiz portion aren't in different countries around the world. And that's because of product quality and being able to maintain that commitment of quality. I'm dating myself a little bit, but back in the 1980s, I had the chance to travel to the then Soviet Union. And it was right around the time that they opened the first McDonald's. Now, I didn't go to the McDonald's, right? I wanted to try to have a Soviet experience as opposed to an American experience in the Soviet Union. But I talked to some people about how McDonald's had established themselves, and they had gone over 5 years earlier and made contracts with farmers to grow the potatoes in the Soviet Union because they had a standard for the potatoes for the McDonald's French fries that they were afraid they couldn't get without owning, if you will, the supply chain and making sure that they had it. So I think you bring up an excellent point there of being able to look, how can we deliver the same level of product experience? And that may require an additional infrastructure expense that a lot of companies aren't willing to make.
You know, Joy, it's funny you mentioned that because, as you know, I worked for McDonald's, and I'm going to add on to the Soviet Union story. The other thing that was really interesting about that is that at the time in the 80s, McDonald's tagline had something to do with smiling. I can't remember exactly what the tagline was, but they were training all their employees to deliver service with a smile. Well, in the Soviet Union, a smile was not nearly as frequent as something that you would see in the United States. In fact, they looked at Americans and were like, why are those people smiling so much, right? And so that didn't translate over to the Soviet Union because they just weren't used to people smiling so much. And so I think that's a fascinating cultural example of you have to know your audience and you have to adapt no matter what business you're in to make sure that you are acting in an appropriate way and in a way that will connect with them on their particular level, whatever that level is.
And it's so funny. You worked at McDonald's too. I didn't do what you did though, Dan. You were an important person at McDonald's. McDonald's was my first job at 16.
Awesome.
So I
Good
was
for you.
surprised. Yeah, McDonald's taught me responsibility. Thank you very much.
I love it. I love it. Okay, Joey, let's recap how Marquesa did playing fake or fact.
Well, in this game, correct answers are worth 100 points. And Marquesa answered one question correctly, which means she earned 100 points. These points convert into dollars, which means you earned a $100 donation to Black NSA. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. This is fun. You guys are cool.
Well, that concludes this episode of Experience Points. Check out more games with Marquesa and our other celebrity contestants at experiencepointsgame.com. That's experiencepointsgame.com. We'll see you soon for more examples of remarkable customer experiences here at Experience Points, brought to you by Avtex.
Yeah, come from different areas of the United States, and I always love traveling in Minnesota where we're headquartered, because I get to experience all the different types of wild rice that they try to put into all my food, and the weird kind of caribou coffee that you guys prefer up there. So it's even in the United States there's some differences, but I think that the interesting thing that's highlighted here, and it's a concrete example of geography separation. Kind of creating different preferences, but it's the preference piece that's really important to determining the experience, right? And what are some other things that companies need to consider when thinking about this holistically?
Well, I think it raises a good point, which is, not only is it different areas of the world that have nuances to how you want to render an experience and what their expectations are. And what they deem, quite frankly, as acceptable and unacceptable. But, that even translates, to your point, back into the U.S. And that's why a lot of the customer experience work we do, we always take a look at personas, because even things like life stage represents a change, and so it's really important for the organizations, whether it's globally or locally, to understand the nuances between the different, customer sets that you're designing the experience around.